Welcome back to Power Lunch. Adobe is the worst performing stock in the S&P and the NASDAQ 100 today after its results. Key concerns around its AI offerings, its ability to monetize them. Seema Mody joins us with more. And Seema, I'd add to that, even just where is its place going to be as these AI tools, continue to explode?
Yeah, that's right, Kelly and Tyler. We've now heard from two major software giants this week. It was Oracle and then today Adobe. Both their guidance has failed to really live up to expectations. And if we double click on Adobe, the street was really expecting more from management on how they're actually monetizing their AI tools. Adobe recently announcing their Acrobat AI assistant, which helps users synthesize and summarize PDFs and data. So something that they're really hoping will help lead on the AI front. But we didn't really get that monetization strategy on the call last night. If I look at what UBS said, they're saying Adobe's been pushing an AI narrative for 2 years now, and we still see no evidence of monetization. The second issue is pricing. CEO Shantanu Narayan was asked about how they're able to raise prices on their customer. He talked about the premium customer, but didn't really signal that he can raise prices on all of his customers. So that was a concern, and why you're seeing a number of analysts downgrade the stock and also lower their price target on shares of Adobe. This all matters because we've seen this huge rally in software stocks since the election on the prospect of deregulation, consolidation, the prospect of more M&A. And Adobe's sort of been sitting out on this rally. The stocks that have really been benefiting are the names that have been able to articulate how they're monetizing AI. Salesforce has been a huge winner in the software space, as has Asana, DocuSign, and ServiceNow.
Chris, your thoughts on Adobe?
Well, I think this is a great example of what we were just talking about, even with Kevin, which is high expectations. Adobe, super high multiple, almost record high for Adobe. And the report was a little soft, but it wasn't that bad. I mean, the revenue missed by maybe 1%. If you adjust for currency, probably less than 1%. But it just didn't quite make it, and the stock's down 10%. So this, to me, is more of a poster boy of high expectations for the whole AI group than it is a particular Adobe-specific issue.
May I pick a bone with that?
Yes.
Which is just, so if I were thinking about the risk in the S&P 500, I'd say, is Adobe just losing share, right, to competitors that either are already in the S&P or might be coming into the S&P? Is it more of a case of, look, its tools are fundamentally the kinds of tools that AI is really replacing. So is that just more Adobe specific?
No, I think you're pointing out a real risk. So that, if you have 100% market share, it can only get worse. And that's kind of where Adobe is now. Having said that, I didn't see any evidence of what you're talking about in this particular earnings report. I saw revenue that went up 9% instead of 10.5%. And so, I'd wait to make a judgment on this.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, let's pivot. Another big name tech stock that's going to report after the bell is Broadcom. It's lower right now, but the report comes as people wonder whether it could actually be, Seema, a threat in AI chips to the biggie, Nvidia.
And Tyler, you and I have had this conversation. Some of the hyperscalers that Nvidia counts on as customers are trying to build their own in-house chips, but they need a design and networking partner, and that is where Broadcom has been playing a bigger role. They have contracts with OpenAI, Meta, Amazon. Even Apple is reportedly working with Broadcom to design a cutting-edge chip that will be used to power AI capabilities, expected to be released in 2026, according to a report from The Information. Analysts say higher prices remain a sticking point for technology companies that buy NVIDIA's chips. That's accelerating interest in developing an alternative option. However, as we know, it's not easy. NVIDIA has that first mover advantage, plus what Wall Street sees as the best group of engineers to keep innovating and delivering faster, powerful chips like Blackwell and beyond that. So tonight, when Broadcom reports earnings, investors will look to CEO Hock Tan to provide a much-needed update on its progress in working with some of the biggest names in Silicon Valley, and when we'll see an NVIDIA competitor actually hit the market.
We had Ron Khrushchevsky on yesterday. We were talking about this, and he sort of made the point that was in your report there, Chris, and that is this, that there's NVIDIA sitting out there, the big dog in this space, with very expensive chips that can do basically everything.
Right.
Broadcom may be able to come in with less expensive chips that do something that is very tailored and specific to the need of a broad of a broad sector of the market like financials. That was Ron's argument for Broadcom yesterday. Did you see it that way?
I see it somewhat differently, Tyler. It makes a good story that it's, Pepsi versus Coke and, that these two big guys are competing. But I see more of it as a win-win. I mean, Nvidia is like the hedgehog that knows one thing and knows it well. It's all AI. It's the GPUs. But Broadcom is, aptly named. It's like the fox that does many things all at once. There are they have lots and lots of semiconductor offerings, and they're terrific clients, Apple being the perfect example. So I think there's room for both to win here. Again, I don't see evidence that they're kind of taking lunch away from Nvidia yet. There's some interesting headlines, but again, I think Nvidia's numbers still show just terrific depth.
Yeah, it's interesting, Seema. Some of the discussion is shifting, though, to whether we need these massive AI data center clusters that are doing pre-training of all of these LLMs, or whether we're now shifting, and there's lingo that I'm not going to use correctly, but to more inferencing. And that inferencing is actually lighter on the compute demands and might point away from the kind of get 100,000 NVIDIA chips, and bring that online, and more towards something a little bit more targeted and tailored that perhaps Broadcom could play a big role. And to Chris's point, this is already almost a $900 billion market cap. So if they are a winner here, some of that might be already priced in as well.
Yeah, there's two parts of that AI model. There's training the AI models, where NVIDIA absolutely the dominant player, and then inference as more companies push towards actually using the AI applications. That's where the opportunity could potentially be, because there's others like Cerebras and Grok in the private world, and then where Broadcom and some of these hyperscalers hope to play a bigger role, because that's where the market is shifting.
Yeah, which you wonder. I'm not saying it's a bear case for Nvidia, but the shares have kind of stalled out over the past 6 months.
They have.
I think it's something to watch into next year. You wouldn't hold Nvidia here, would you?
No, too expensive.
Okay.
For
I figured,
us.
but I just
and also, sooner or later, there's like Adobe, they're going to miss a revenue number, and there's just no room for error.
Yeah, no, well said.